Hello there guys, it's me Unstable Voltage. Welcome to a brand new series of Age of Wonders 4. Just like to say, I apologise that I have been off the scene for a little while. I haven't really done a video in a couple of months. Started a new job and obviously things have become a little bit more busy now, but I want to continue making video content, and what a great way to do it with Age of Wonders 4. So Age of Wonders 4 is, I believe, technically the 5th Age of Wonders game, because there was a spin-off between 3 and 4, which was Age of Wonders Planetfall. Took a more of a sci-fi theme towards it, whereas all of the original ones are more fantasy. Kind of a little bit like the way you had Civilization and Civilization Beyond Earth. So this is Age of Wonders 4, came out a couple of days ago. There's a lot of customization in this game. I'm not going to be going through all of that because I know that every other YouTuber and streamer has spent hours showing you how to make your own race and your own realm and all of that stuff. I'll point it out when it crops up, but it's not something I'm going to spend a lot of time doing. So this is going to be a little bit of a learning campaign. One, because I'm learning, and also because I am hopefully trying to teach you a little bit about how it works, because it is different from Civilization, although similar, and it's also different from Age of Wonders 3 as well, which is the game in the series that I have the most experience with. So just before I go in and actually select our realm here, one thing that you do have in Age of Wonders 4 is your Pantheon up here. You can rename it, I've given mine its own little name, but basically you have this progression system, and you unlock new things as you actually play through the game. So you unlock different cosmetic items and different tomes and different weapons and even different realms that you can play with. So you actually unlock things through play, which is really nice for a sort of a single player, not live service game. So we're going to go in, and there's a number of realms here that we can choose from. So you've got one realm which is the beginner scenario, which is what we're going to drop into just to play this game. We've got our story mode, so you can play through a campaign, and then we've just got various realms where you can just go in and basically play a you know, a sort of just a game, not a story game. You can make custom realms as well, so you can create your own realms. There's only a few different options here for customization, but as you unlock more stuff in here, there are, what, 7 other realms that you can unlock, so there is more stuff to be done. So we're going to go in and do the Fields of Rebirth. Each of these realms has different boons and penalties. You can see them all listed down at the bottom. So Fields of Rebirth is a nice easy one. It just has harmonious lands, so the high tier ancient wonders are absent and the high tier infestation spawners are absent, so it's just a little bit of a nice easy one. We're going to go ahead and play it on easy just because we're doing the sort of tutorial bit here. So we've got a number of different factions that we can appear, that we can play as. I believe this one here is the pre-order bonus one, and then we've got all of the other ones. You've got humans, you've got elves, you've got orcs, dwarves, you've got these cat people, we've got halflings, goblins, rodents, and we've got croakers, basically frogs, and there's all sorts in here, more dwarves, there's like undead and just all sorts of stuff. So basically, one thing they have changed from Age of Wonders 3 is they've gotten rid of classes. So you used to be able to play as like a warlord or a necromancer, and they've got, or a rogue, and they've got rid of all that stuff now. So it's just really based on the race that you play and the tomes that you have, which is basically the book of magic, the lore of magic that your civilization practices. I quite like, out of all of the races, the Moonrock Dwarves. There's a reason for that, and I will show you. So they do have a few things going on. So these guys use the Tome of Warding, which gives them some astral affinity. It gives them bolstering support. So I'm not going to go through all of these details, but it gives them bolstering support. So basically all you need to know is that this gives them, because it's warding, it sort of gives them bonuses and benefits and buffs in battle. And it allows them to research magical wards and phantasm warriors and marks of invulnerability and static shields and stuff like that. We are Dwarfkin, we are tough, so we get some extra defense. We have underground adaptation, so we get bonus movement on certain underground terrain types. We can build farms on cavern floors. We are mystics, so we basically get extra mana income, and our units have an attunement called Star Blades, which basically means when a spell is cast, any unit that have attunement Star Blade get like a buff to their damage output for like fire and electricity and something else. We're great builders, so quarries give extra gold, things are cheaper to build, and we're runesmiths, so basically unit enhancement research or enchantment research uses less knowledge. I'll go through all of this as we get to it, and we start with this great axe for our leader. So the race that you pick is going to determine what you look like, what units you have, what abilities they have. So we're going to go in and select this faction here. Now I do have the tutorials turned on, but they probably won't all pop up because obviously I have been playing through this as well. So I'll try and explain a little bit how everything works. So this is the initial pop-up screen just telling us a little bit about the race that we have selected. And we start with two magic abilities, two magic spells from our Tome of Warding. One is Cosmic Ablation. So this is a damaging ability that can be used in combat. It causes 10 lightning, 10 fire, 10 frost damage. And then we have this Mark of Vulnerability. This is a buff spell, which again can be used in combat, making the target invulnerable for 1 turn, and removes any negative status effects they may already have. But it can't be used on a unit more than once per battle. So those are what we start with. We can also go ahead and start researching our next one. So whenever you get to research, you're usually given 3 options. There are prerequisites for some of these, so you will find that there are certain ones that will never pop up in this list unless you've researched the one before them. You can spend some mana, which is this resource up here, to reshuffle the research and give you different options. It tells you beneath them how long they're going to take to research, and this is basically the tier of the spell. You can actually look at the full tome library and see all of the spells that are in there, so there's actually quite a few going on in there. It'll take a while to get to. So we've got 3 options. We've got the Wayfinder enchantment, which basically gives enchanted units very fast movement. So 48 movement on the world map and 48 movement in combat. I believe normally they have 32 or 36, so it makes them very, very fast. But it's also used on scouts. Scouts have, where's their movement? 32, yeah. So scouts' usual movement is 32. So it basically gives them an extra 50, well, not 50% movement, but what, a third. So makes them a fair bit faster. And that's used on the actual strategic overworld map, which is why it's got this sort of grey-brown border around the outside of the circles. A bit difficult to see. Has this one, which is the Phantasmal Warrior. So basically, this allows us to summon an additional unit. And then we have this one, which is Magical Wards, which basically is one that we... a spell that we can cast that gives us lightning, fire, and frost resistance to the target race. So this is actually a entire map. It affects the entire map level ability. I'm going to go ahead and get the Phantasm Warrior actually. So it's going to take 4 turns, and that's ideal for us anyway because we want to be able to start building up some armies quite quickly. So a few things that we notice here. So the coloured border is the limit of our domain. So it's all of the territory we own, which domains are made up of provinces. So we have a single province, which is where our capital city is. If I leave the mouse in an area around the city, you'll see these little green outlines appear. These are neighbouring provinces. Now, we can claim these provinces, if they're neighbouring, once our city grows in population. You need 1 population to claim a neighbouring province. You'll also notice, particularly if I click on the city itself, you'll see all the neighbouring provinces. Each of these provinces has a number of these icons in them. And these icons basically indicate the specializations that these provinces can have. So if, for example, I gain another population, which I will do in 3 turns, and I want to claim this province here, I can build a farm there, or I could build a mine there, or I could build a quarry there. Depending on what I build is going to determine which resources I get from that province. The limitations on what I can build here, because you only pick one of these, the limitations on what I can build based on what special items, special structures are within that province. While we're in the city screen here, we can see that our city is very stable. So it's like the morality, everyone is happy. We can see how much food we're making, so we've got a bit of a surplus, which is the reason our population is growing. Production is basically the resource used for building structures. We've got draft, which is the resource for producing units. Then we've got gold, obviously for buying stuff, mana for casting spells, knowledge is essentially our research, and then we've got Imperium, which is basically used for leveling up our cities and our empire. There's a few more bits and pieces that we have, like at the top here we have a city's limit. So the city's cap at the moment is 3. It's not a hard cap, so if we can go over it, although we do take penalties, and we can increase the cap. We also have these things called Whispering Stones, which are basically resources used to negotiate with free cities, but you can give them to your own cities to get their stability up if they dislike you. So we've got 2 production queues here. We've got the production queue for buildings, and we've got the production queue for units. While we're not doing anything, they will automatically convert 25% of production to gold and 25% of draft to food. It's worth remembering though that it's only 25%, so you're always better off building something and drafting something. If you are not building or drafting something, the production and draft gets converted into surplus, but only lasts for 1 turn. Surplus automatically gets used on the next thing you build. So let's go ahead and start with the storehouse. That'll give us some extra food, because we want to start getting our population up as quick as possible to start claiming additional provinces. We're also going to go in here and we are going to get ourselves an arcane guard. So I've basically got 3 unit options that I can build at the moment. They're all tier 1. And essentially what we've got here is a melee unit. This is a polearm unit. We've got our arcanist, which is essentially a mage, so ranged damage dealer. And we've got our scouts. So we already start with a scout here because of the difficulty level we're on. Let's go ahead and get another arcane guard. It's going to take 3 turns. It's going to cost us 60 gold. And they have an 8 gold per turn upkeep, so we'll go and do that. If you do have gold in your inventory, you can hurry the production by spending on it, but we're not going to go and do that. So let's have a quick look at the map. So we can zoom in and out and move the map around. We can rotate it, and wrong button, we can rotate it and all of that other stuff, put that back how it is. You can zoom right the way out, which is nice because it gives you this sort of tactical overlay of the map. It's a really good way to see what sort of special things we've got on here. So we can see the production stash, we can see this gold vein, we can see this mana node, we can see this iron deposit. So just make things easier to spot. And that's the reason why if we were to build over here, this one allows us to build a quarry because we've got the iron mine here. This one allows us to build a conduit because we've got this mana node there. So that's what is affecting the options here. We don't need that particular pop-up. You'll also notice we've got these things called underground passages. So because we're playing as the dwarves, a race with underground affinity, we actually start underground, and there is an overworld. If we click this button here, you can't see anything because obviously it's all in fog of war, but this is the overworld, and if we click here, this is the underground. So we can actually transition between both layers by going through these underground passages. We have a unit to fight over here, so we are going to go ahead and engage that unit. So we've got our main army here. Our army is led by our ruler, who also doubles as a hero. So in Age of Wonders 3, every army had to be led by a hero, and then the army was made up of up to 6 units in total, including the hero. You don't actually need to have a hero in an army now. Armies can go ahead and just fight on their own, but you can't siege anything without a hero. You can't capture wonders without a hero. So having heroes leading your armies is very important. Heroes are now... the number of heroes you can have is now tied to the number of cities that you have. In Age of Wonders 3, the game used to offer you new heroes like after the first couple of turns, and you could start building them up, but now it's more based on your cities. So you don't need to have loads of heroes. If heroes die, they do sort of respawn eventually. So we're going to go ahead and fight this mob over here, this army over here. There's only 2 units in it. We can tell by these little icons. One of them's a scout and one of them is basically a support unit. It's a priest, it's a healer. So we're going to go over here and we will attack this unit. Now you can see that moving in here, you can see the red outline if I mouse over this this unit. So in Age of Wonders 3, if you attacked a unit, you could bring in any army that was in the adjacent hex to that unit. So what that essentially meant was you could have 7 armies with 6 in each stack. You could have 7 armies based in a battle. And they were all the armies around the defending unit, providing they were either allied to you or allied to the defensive unit and not both. They would come in on one side or the other. They've now extended this range, so you can still only bring in a limited number of armies, but it's within 3 hexes of the defending unit now, so you don't have to have all of your units clumped up together. One thing is a little bit weird that I did notice, and I was looking in the sort of encyclopedia under combat, and there was one thing that didn't make sense to me. With the reinforcement rule, up to 6 armies can participate in the battle. So that's a reduction from Age of Wonders 3, where technically it could be 7. And it says the reinforcement rule allows up to 3 friendly armies that are within 3 hexes of combat engagement on the world map to join one of the combatants. There are exceptions to this rule. Now, I would read that as 3 friendly armies joining one of the combatants would mean 4 armies, right? Because you've got the combatant that they're joining plus the 3 friendly armies. But that would mean you'd have 8 armies on each side. So maybe it's 3 per side, which means that battles are going to be more balanced because, you know, attacking an army that had 6 units in it with 6 armies that had 6 units in was always really, really easy. Anyway, we don't need the scout. We're going to go straight in and attack this unit, and I can show you the combat. So when you get this screen, you get an overview of the battle, what your relative strength is. You can see your units on the left, you can see the enemy units on the right. If you do have multiple armies within range, they will show here, and you'll have tick boxes that you can tick and untick to say which ones you want to come in. You can retreat. You have the option of retreating and trying to run away. Now, if you are the aggressor, you always have that option. So you can run away from the battle. If you are the one being attacked, you only get one opportunity to retreat. They can still try and chase you down. We can hit auto combat, which will automatically resolve it for us, but we might not like the outcome. Even after an auto resolve, we do get the option to retry the battle, although we'll have to do it manually. But just to show you how combat works, we are going to go in and do manual combat. So we are the attacker because we've initiated this combat. So the enemy moves first. The defender always gets to go first. Now, one thing that you can do in the combat is you can actually use these buttons here up top, and you can toggle auto combat, which basically means the AI will move your units for you. It'll basically play it for you. You can at any point turn the auto combat off and then make manual adjustments, use your units manually, or you can just leave it to play out. So we've got a few resources here, mostly up in the top corner of the screen. So this is our mana, and this is the mana that we have available to us on the overworld, on the strategic map. It's the mana that we gain from our city production, and we use that to cast spells. Now, that's our specific leader spells, not the individual spells like the damaging spells that our Arcanist can cast, for example. And then we also have casting points, which is basically a cap to the amount of spells that we can use within a particular battle. So I only get 35 combat casting points this battle. Once I've used all 35 of them, then I can no longer cast any spells, regardless of how much mana I have. And that gets replenished at the start of every new combat, basically. So we've got a few different units here. We've got our Soother, which is a support unit. So they do have Cosmic Blast, which is their attack. So I should start off by saying that every unit has 3 action points, which you can see by these 3 blue orbs here. And each unit can spend up to up to 2 action points moving and leaving 1 action point then to take an action. This is a little bit of a departure from Age of Wonders 3, where I believe you could use all 3 action points to move. Now you can see that above the, or on the bottom of the cursor, there are some little blue orbs. So standing on the spot that I'm on doesn't cost me any action point. I also think in Age of Wonders 3 you could move like 1 hex and it wouldn't cost an action point. You could like inch forward without spending an action point. But moving forward 2 tiles here costs me an action point. Moving forward 3 or 4 tiles will cost me 2 action points. I can't move beyond that. So the little sort of golden outline is the limit of my movement if I use both action points. And then the white dotted outline is the range of my attacks. Obviously this is a ranged unit. Now you'll see below the attack these action points, or sort of half action points, and this basically indicates how many times you can attack per turn. So attacking costs an action point, but the fact that there are 3 little half moons here means that if I've got 3 action points, I'll attack 3 times. If I've got 2 action points left, I'll attack twice. If I pick somebody like the Arcane Guard, they're the same. They'll attack up to 3 times. If I pick, for example, my Spell Shield, if they're using their melee strike, it's the same. They'll attack 3 times. If I'm using my Stunning Flash, it uses 1 action point and just attacks once, and it'll end their turn as well. We've got our Soother, and they have the Cosmic Blast. The Cosmic Blast only attacks once and uses 1 action point. And then we've got Soothing Breeze, which heals a target. Any healing done on the combat phase is always temporary hit points, which is lost at the end of combat. Every unit has the ability to change the direction it's facing, because flanking is very important, and units also have a defensive mode, which basically makes them immune to flanking and gives resistances to everyone standing around them. So you've got defense, which is resistance against physical attacks, and then you've got resistance, which is defense against non-physical attacks. So those are basically all of the units that we have there. So 2 Arcanists, 1 Spearman, and then we've got our leader, of course, as well. Can't use his overchannel ability on this turn because you cannot cast spells on turn 1. So that's basically all you need to know. Obviously we've got our health, we've got morale, which affects how likely you are to get a crit chance. So higher morale, you're more likely to crit. Lower morale, you're more likely to fumble. You can see our defense and resistance along with our health. That's basically everything. So we want to move up and take these 2 guys out. So I'm going to go and start by moving my Spell Shield right up here in the front of this gap. So we're using the terrain to our advantage. I'm going to go ahead and put the pikemen around the other side, just to sort of block the way. I'm going to go ahead and put my hero around on this side. We do want to protect the hero. We don't want to end up losing him, but he is pretty tough, so we don't have to worry too much about that. And we're going to go ahead and put one of our Arcanists in here, because we're out of range. We can't hit either of them. We'll put the other Arcanist in over here behind the hero. Now, we do have an obstruction in the way, which is not great. And we'll go ahead and put in the Soother. So there's nothing really we can do. So what we will do is we'll get our Soother into warding mode, which you can now see will give some resistance to all of the units adjacent. And we can also go into our Spell Shield and pop our Shield Wall, which again gives some defense to the units adjacent to it as well. So we've buffed these units up. So let's hope we don't get flanked. So we're going to go ahead and end the turn now. You still have units that can act. So if we cycle through our units, I mean, I could just take any unit that has movement left and just put them into defense mode, right? It makes most sense because they're not really doing anything. And if they're in defensive mode, they become immune to flanking. So if you are attacked from one of the 3 tiles in front of your unit, so the tile directly in front, or this one, you're not being flanked. If you attack from one of the 3 tiles behind a unit, then you're flanking them and you do an extra 30% damage. It also means that they can't retaliate. But when you're in defensive mode, you basically can't be flanked anymore. So let's go ahead and end the turn. And the AI just shuffles towards me just a tiny bit. Didn't really do an awful lot. Now, it doesn't really matter what order I take them out in. Probably want to take out the unit that can heal first. Hasn't really moved into range of any of my units, which is a little bit annoying. So I'm going to go ahead and get right in his face with my warrior. So now they are pinned, which basically means they're in my zone of control. So if they try and move now, they will automatically trigger a retaliation attack from my warrior here. I'm also going to go ahead and move in with the pikemen as well. We do have these mounted... it's not the scout is very weak. They look tough because they're mounted, but they don't have a lot of health. So we're going to go ahead and attack these units. Now, sometimes when you attack a unit, they do get the option to counter-attack. It's normally melee units that do that. And you can kind of get around this a little bit by having a unit in front of them and behind them. If you attack them from behind, they'll turn around, and then you attack them from behind with the other unit. I'm also going to go ahead and use my spell shield to use their stunning flash. And I'm going to go ahead and attempt to stun them. Have I already attacked once this turn? I do have movement left. Won't let me attempt it. Why not? Okay, that's weird. We'll just do a good old-fashioned attack then. Something there blocking me from doing that, and I'm not sure why. Okay, let's move in with some of our other units. So we'll move in with the Arcanist. I'm just going to move this one up to here and spend a single action point, because now I can demonstrate about firing twice. So you see the 30% that's appearing above the red health indicator of the enemy. That basically means that I've got a 30% chance to hit. And if I hold control, it shows you why. I lose 20% because of long range, and I lose 40% because I'm obscured by a unit, because there's an obstacle in my way and I'm very far away. Now, if an attack misses, it can graze or it can miss. A graze does half damage, a miss does nothing, but a miss can hit another adjacent unit. Let's go ahead and attack. There we go, we grazed on the second hit, but we got 2 attacks because we had 2 action points remaining. I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the Soother. And the Soother's going to go ahead and use Cosmic Blast. There we go, that did a decent bit of damage. And I'm going to move in with this Arcanist as well, although they can't really get close enough to do any damage on this turn. I could have probably moved the this guy first, the hero first, would have probably been better. So I could cast one of my spells. I could make one of my units invulnerable, or I could cast a damage spell on one of the enemy units. The damage spell is actually quite decent, and it will kill this unit off. And you can now see that that's triggered Starblades on some of my friendly units. So Starblades, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, basically gives a buff to the damage output now on these units. Because they're affected by Starblades, they will now have some additional fire, lightning damage and frost damage. So there's one unit left. Can we attack with anybody? Not really. The only unit we have left is our hero. He's a little bit too far away. We could cast an additional spell this turn. Yeah, let's go ahead and pop that. So now we can cast one more spell. And we'll do Mark of Invulnerability. I don't know which of these units the scout might try and attack. But let's go ahead and put it on our... Let's put it on our warrior, because that's a tier 2 unit. We can't create more of these, but we can create more spearmen, more pikemen. And that's given us Starblades again, because you can get it multiple times. It does stack. So that just tells us we're over channeling. So let's end the turn. He's actually backing off. He does have a ranged attack. And he is attacking the spearman, but that's fine. So we'll move in. We'll just attack him the old-fashioned way. Now, we'll be able to melee strike him twice, because we do have 2 action points remaining. So it'll be a decent amount of damage. And we're doing that extra lightning and fire damage. So he's now burning as well. Let's go ahead and move in with the pikeman. the spearman, and that should be enough to finish the unit off. So nice easy fight, but it does basically show you the way that it works. We've got 15 of our combat points left, and we carry our mana through. I think it's also added on what we got from the previous turn. So that was a victory. We can retry. Why would we need to? Maybe we've lost a unit or a couple of units and we want to play it again and do better. And we can watch a replay. If you watch the replay, it's all sped up. Now, sometimes when you complete a fight, you'll get spoils from victory. So you might get some items that you can use. We didn't on this instance, but we have cleared that unit out. We still have more orders that we can give to this guy, so we can move a little bit further around the map. Now, we can't do it from this turn, because this tile, because we're in the wrong place. So I might just get him to look down here. But let's take our scout, because another thing that you can do when you are playing as a subterranean race, like the dwarves, is you see the map is made up of all these little tunnels and corridors. Well, some sections of the map can actually be removed. So anything that's marked as earth, like this chunk here, if I go and stand next to it with a unit and click the excavation ability. Now this is something that normally you'd have to unlock, but playing a race with underground affinity, subterranean affinity, already starts with this. So you click on excavation, and then you can click on one of these chunks of terrain, and we'll actually excavate that, which will reveal a new province for us. And that is basically the end of that turn there. So we hit the end turn button and all of the AI units go. We've removed that chunk of earth, and what do we find ourselves with? Another flipping army. So that's something that we are going to have to deal with. There's 4 units in that army. It might be quite a tough one to deal with. That is one we'll do on the next video, I think. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope this video has given you a little bit of insight into what Age of Wonders is and how it works. And we will definitely be covering more of it. I'm going to carry on playing through this campaign and sort of teach you more bits and pieces as we go along. It's very difficult to put the mouse cursor anywhere where it doesn't come up with some sort of pop-up, but I suppose that's good, because it's lots of good information for a new player. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed this video of Age of Wonders. I will see you next time. Until then, goodbye for now.